Here we go. Hi, everyone. It's Jenny Fenig. Welcome to another episode of Coach Magic. We have the amazing Hope Zvara with us today. Let me tell you a bit about her, and then we're going to dive in because I know we've got a lot of ground to cover. So, Hope Zvara is a sought-after speaking and business coach and the CEO of Mother Trucker Yoga. It's probably one of the best names of a business I've ever heard. So, I love that. Hope has been featured in Forbes, Yahoo, PBS, and SiriusXM after rising to the top as a leader in health within the trucking industry. Her innovative business mind has made her a desirable coach who has helped thousands of speakers and entrepreneurs go from confused and unsure to all over the place as a speaker who is clear, direct, and aligned with their mission and audience. Well, Hope, we are thrilled to have you with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jenny. I'm excited for this conversation, and let's get a little party started here.
Let's do it. We are getting this party started. Okay, so Mother Trucker Yoga. Best name. How did you get into the trucking industry, and how did you align yoga with the trucking industry?
Yeah, I always tell people I'm not a truck driver, although I do own a Peterbilt. I do have my own truck. I really got my start in the yoga space. I was struggling as a teen into my 20s with anxiety, depression, addiction, and I just was looking for something to help me. I had done all the traditional stuff, went through all those things, and nothing really stuck. And then I was working at a recreation center as a lifeguard, and a colleague looked at me one day and said, "You look like someone that would practice yoga." And something in me just snapped. Full disclosure, I live in a small town in Wisconsin. Like, I don't even think I knew what yoga was, but something in me just told me, like, you need to do this. And so I went and found a class, and that Wednesday night yoga class became my weekly ritual of second chances. Those second chances eventually got me into recovery. Eventually, I wanted to create a community for myself. My instructor dropped the seed in my head that said, "You look like someone that would teach yoga. Have you ever thought about teaching yoga?" And until she said that to me, never once crossed my mind, but went out to Colorado, did a 30-day training and never looked back, went on for multiple other trainings in the years to come from that. Eventually opened my own studio to create a community for myself of other people just like me. And eventually opened up a state-approved vocational school teaching yoga and functional movement. But that entire time I felt like this is not exactly the place I feel like I'm supposed to be. This is a stepping stone, not my end goal. And in 2017, I was at a business mixer and met a guy. I'm happily married, a different kind of guy. And he looks at me and says, "Do you have anything for truck drivers? Like in the cab of the truck?" And I think I'm funny sometimes. And I threw up my hands and said, "Mother Trucker Yoga." Really just trying to get a rise out of this guy, trying to make an awkward conversation a little bit more lighthearted and funny. He didn't skip a beat and said, "That's brilliant. You want to go into business together?" We shook on it. He called me up the next morning. In 4 months, we built a business from scratch, we meaning me. And a year later, I bought him out of the business. And in the last 7 years, I've helped, impacted, inspired, and led more than 200,000 truck drivers to change lanes in their health and fitness, all with small, simple changes. And here we are today.
Whoa, that is so good. There's so many, I take notes during these conversations because certain gems just drop from my guest's mouth and I grab them and write them down. And you shared such gold there. And I want to just backtrack because I saw so much of my own personal story in that as well, like discovering yoga, and it saved my life. And same deal, like I was drinking too much alcohol. It was just, I wasn't taking care of myself as I didn't know how. And so these little seeds that get dropped down, and then you decide to follow it. You went to a class, it changed your life, led you to recovery. You went into a training because a teacher said, "Have you ever thought about teaching yoga? I could see you doing this." I had the same thing happen to me. And then boom, you opened a studio, led to a vocational school. But that voice inside told you, this isn't the end game. This is a stepping stone. And it led you to this meeting where this random, not so random person asked you, "Do you have anything for truckers?" Mother Trucker Yoga. Okay, so how did you design that yoga experience for truckers? How did you get into the minds and the bodies of this audience that you were not them, but you empathized with them. Take us through that journey, because I'm sure it's very fascinating. You learned a ton, and I would love to understand how you kind of figure out that audience so you could best serve them.
Yeah, I think for everybody in life, especially when you're looking to up level or pivot, that all of the experiences you've had up to this point are really preparing you for that next thing, where a lot of people think, oh, I want to just completely switch careers. You hear that a lot, right? But you're never really switching your skill sets and what you've learned and what you're good at. And one of the things that I had really dialed in my 15 years in running a yoga studio and a school was the ability to break things down into small little bite-sized pieces, because that's actually how I got into recovery. It was like one breath at a time, one pose at a time, one step at a time, versus this, like, I used to pray, oh God, please heal me and let me wake up tomorrow and be normal. And that did not work. And so God did guide me, the universe did guide me, but it wasn't like I wanted it to be. And so all of the training that I had done in functional movement and mindfulness and biomechanics and fascial therapy, like, all had taught me so many amazing things. And during my yoga years, I really took all that and was like, okay, how can I make this my own? Because one day in a class teaching yoga, a student just came up to me afterwards, and I'm sure people said it to me before, and she was like, my neck hurts. What can I do in the movement to make it stop hurting? And in that moment, I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And I was trained to say, oh, that gets better when you get stronger, or that gets better with time, or honor your body. Those are all responses teachers give when they have no flipping idea. And so I was like, crap, I really have to learn about the body. And so I stepped out of the yoga world, learned everything I possibly could about kinesiology, functional movement, core training, all of these things, went back to the yoga mat and like threw out half of what I had been taught, because I'm like, this is not appropriate for today's modern body. And so I took all of these things. I had worked with lots of blue collar workers, lots of people, from all diverse backgrounds. And so the trucking really wasn't that big of a leap for me, because I had already been teaching this type of an approach. I already had been primed for that. In addition to teaching chair yoga and cancer survivors and elderly, like, I was like, I can take everything that I've been doing and adopt it to a driver. And I did a small test run with a group of drivers, and the results were phenomenal with basic things I was even teaching them. I'm like, just do these things and let's regroup in about 6 weeks. And every single one of them, my arthritis stopped acting up. My back doesn't hurt anymore. I'm sleeping better. Like, this wasn't some magical weight loss program. This was just basic everyday lifestyle movements and changes, and the results were phenomenal. And so I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. Oh, so good. So good. Well done on that. And I love how you also realized that a lot of what you had been taught wasn't really effective, because we learn this because we work with humans, and then we start trying things on for size. I mean, yoga led me. I taught yoga for just a blip in time. I taught asana, and then I realized it was truly a stepping stone to lead me to coaching. And I joke with my clients, but it's not really a joke, it's true, that I'm teaching yoga. They just don't realize it, because yoga is not just asana. It's
A lifestyle.
It's mastery over the mind, right? It's lifestyle. It's just how you live. It's how you operate. So funny. I went to the dentist this morning. Every time I go to the dentist, I'm always in my yoga clothes, because I come straight from yoga. I organize it. I'm out of the house, yoga to the dentist. And he's like, did you go to yoga? I'm like, absolutely. Keeps my motor running. Like, it's our ongoing, it's not a joke. It's real, but it's just a way to live. It's a way to live. It's a way to operate. But by doing everything that you've done, and how I apply this to my own life, it allows you to be able to see the world as it is and make much more intelligent decisions. And for you, having done all of this work with these real humans, these bodies, you recognized from your own training, expertise, years in the field, that certain methodologies or certain teaching techniques weren't really effective. And so you took matters into your own hands and were able to really serve this audience. So walk us through, how did you shape the business? Like, what were you doing? Was this teaching over a training program? Were these truckers tuning in to a digital course? Did you meet them in person? Did you do retreats with these people? Like, what did you do? How did you get the content to them?
Yeah, I think the first thing we always have to ask ourselves, and whenever I'm coaching business clients, is one, what are your skill sets? Like,
Mhm.
I would never recommend to somebody that hates one-on-ones to be like, you should start a one-on-one coaching program. Like, if they're very introverted and don't like that, they're going to be better off with a group training experience,
Mm.
or they're going to be better off with maybe in-person types of stuff. So one, it's recognizing where your skill sets are and where you work best. Where you shine the most, what comes the most natural to you. And that's different for everybody. And for me, I really like a group atmosphere. That's where I shine best. I can do one-on-ones. I'm fine with that, but it doesn't light me up. It doesn't like get me out of bed in the morning. I should say at night, but yeah, it doesn't get me out of bed anywhere. And so one, I had to establish that.
Yeah.
And two, you need to know your industry. So I had to do some research.
Yeah.
How are other people in my industry currently delivering this? And is it working? So versus looking at someone and be like, oh, I want to do that, and they're in a completely different industry, honey, that might not translate. But furthermore, you also might like a certain style of learning or a certain style of delivery, but your clients don't. So it's less about me and more about them. And so I really recognize that having more of like a membership site with some coaching was going to be the most beneficial, because drivers have crazy schedules. You know, they never know where they're going to be, when their off time is, depends on when they started. And so being able to be like 1 p.m., we're going to do this coaching, or we're going to meet, like that would have been difficult. So it was really about combining a group element with a membership site that had my videos, that I was be able to dictate and kind of direct them towards, and a community component to it, so we could have an open conversation whenever that worked best, was really kind of, you know, the best case scenario for the drivers. But there was another piece to this, and I think this is a mistake a lot of business people make, or a lot of entrepreneurs make. They just think, if I build it, they will come. And nothing is farther from the truth than that. And so we also need to recognize, like, I was brand new in the space. Nobody knew me. I didn't know anybody. I needed to look out and recognize, where could I create relationships where people have influence, so that I could help them. Like, without healthy drivers, you can't sell your mufflers. Without healthy drivers, you can't sell your tech for tolls. Like, and so where could I create strategic relationships where I help them because they want to support healthy drivers, and they in return give me the credibility that I need in order to get in front of the right people. And I think that's a oversight for a lot of entrepreneurs, that they just think, well, I just spent all this time and money in my platform or my coaching. Like, where are the clients? Oh, honey, like, you got to put yourself out there. You have to create relationships of influence in order to bring people to your door in a big way. I did that was through blogging and speaking, and doing trainings, many of it for free in the beginning. I know people are like, never work for free. Well, I don't think you've ever been an entrepreneur, but you have to know when that line is. Like, I was willing to do certain things for free because they paid me back in a different way.
Yeah. 100%. That's such a great point. And how did you identify? So I love that. And sometimes we do need to put ourselves out there and not, quote, charge for it, because you have a great offer on the back end, and that's where you got to have your offer dialed in. Sometimes even doing those talks, you get more clear about, wait, who are my people? It's all research. It's all data that you can then apply to your business and this offer. How did you identify what some of those top influential strategic relationships were going to be? How did you find?
I just did my research in the industry. You know, who's doing a lot on social media, you know, who's at the conferences. You know, I ask questions. Like, I'm not afraid to ask people. A lot of people are like, oh, if I ask a question, they'll think I don't know or think I'm less competent. Oh, honey, like, there's nothing more people love than to help educate you and add value into your life. And there is an art of reciprocation. You know, you're like, oh, this, and then I can offer back, and then they want to offer me back. And before I know it, I have this new BFF. And so I was just willing to put myself out there and talk to people and ask, hey, who do you know? Hey, I'm doing this. Do you know somebody that would be interested in this? Or what are the top truck shows? What are the top truck conferences? Like, where does everybody gather? Like, I was just asking questions. I was doing research. Google was my friend. LinkedIn was my friend. Facebook was my friend. And I wasn't afraid to put in the time, because that was R&D. That was strategic research and development for me to be able to build my business. And I see a gap with a lot of entrepreneurs nowadays where it's like they're just not willing to do that. And I can't figure out the life of me why. Like, there is no marketing person that you can hire for the knowledge that you can get yourself, because that's going to help shape and curb how you do your part. And that's one piece that I always try to encourage new entrepreneurs or even existing entrepreneurs. Don't hand the reins off of everything to somebody else, because you lose touch with the reality of your industry quite quickly.
Yeah. Well said, for sure. I think a reason why some don't do it is, well, maybe they don't know. And number two, it's that fear of rejection. I'm going to ask them and they're going to say no. I'm going to ask them, they won't say anything. I was grateful in that the job I had before I became an entrepreneur, it was the job I held I was going through the yoga teacher training, and that opened my eyes so much to the point where I'm like, I gotta get out of here. That's the thing with yoga. You gotta be careful because it shows you everything. There's nowhere to hide. But at that particular job, I was a researcher, and I put together business conferences. I produced business conferences, and my job was to get on the phone and ask senior executives, what are your biggest challenges? What's keeping you up at night? And that has served me so well, because it shows you how to create something that your audience needs and wants and will buy. So, Hope, what have been some of your biggest, I'd say, challenges as head of Mother Trucker Yoga? What have been some of the lessons, the hard fought lessons learned? I mean, you've gone through like making sure you've got those strategic relationships, but any kind of tough lessons that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think one of the toughest lessons, and this is something I constantly am checking in with day after day, week after week, month after month, is leaning into my strengths, because it is easy when you hear, or your Facebook feed or whatever it is, like this new thing, like everyone needs ClickFunnels, everyone needs to write a book, everyone needs to do all these things. And you start thinking, well, I should probably do that, but it's not in my strategic path right now. And so then you deviate, right? And then you're in a cul-de-sac, then you're on a side street, and then you have to navigate all the way back. Like, you need Facebook ads. Like, Facebook ads are going to change your business. Well, honey, I have spent thousands of dollars with multiple types of people with Facebook ads. They actually just don't do well for my business. Right. It's just the type of business I have. And it's like, everyone tries to convince me, and then I'm like, okay, I'll try them. And it's like, I shouldn't have tried them, like deviating me away from my path. And so I agree with you that the yoga really has helped me stay grounded. And when I kind of get away from what I know of yoga and the lifestyle and the meditation and just the mindfulness piece of it, especially, that's when I derail. That's when I deviate. That's when I'm stuck in cul-de-sacs. And I don't think we're taught enough as entrepreneurs to trust ourselves. Yeah. Like, what's right for me? And whenever I get kind of sidetracked by somebody else that everyone's like oohing over, and I'm like, well, maybe I should ooh over them too. Like, maybe I'm being unwilling. Maybe I'm being stuck in the mud. Like, I kind of like say these things to myself, and then I kind of go that way, and it's like, hope, mistake, come back. So that's one. And I think the other one is just the social media landscape is constantly changing. And I am very value-based and I'm very teaching-based. Like, I love to educate, and social media is a great platform, but it's very much now, you got to be a good actor. You have to be good at video production. You have to be good at putting together little skits and spending hours editing those things. Like, I really struggle with the line of like, I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be a business that creates influence. And there's a difference. There is a big difference, because you can be an influencer on YouTube or TikTok and have zero business. And if the internet went down tomorrow, excuse my language, you're screwed. Yeah. And so I would much rather be a business with influence, that I have multiple channels. At the end of the day, I have a list, I have clients, and I have a stability and a stable surface to stand on, whether TikTok is banned or not. And I think we saw that when TikTok that happened. Influencers went nuts because they don't have a business. They are simply an influencer. So those are some of the things I struggle with. And it's like, oh, you kind of get stuck in what everyone else thinks a little bit. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. I've gone through most everything that you just mentioned. I've been a coach for 17 plus years. So, I'm not new. I didn't just get here, and that's good. But like you said, you see so many trends, fads come and go. I was in the Facebook ad world for a while. I freaking hated it. I hated it. I was like, I have to do this. I have to. Everyone says you have to do it, and I had these webinars and blah, 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 and I remember just everything came to a screeching halt. And it was when I have 3 kids. My oldest literally refused to go to school anymore. There's a term for it. It's called school refusal. Whole long story. And we ended up homeschooling him. He's still homeschooling. He's in 10th grade. He's going for it as an elite tennis player. It's very exciting. But at that time, I remember I'm like, I can't do all this anymore. I can't keep this machine with the bells and the whistles and push this, push that, pull that. It was just not aligned with how I'm wired. And the yogi in me was going, stop. Stop. Just stop. There was so much money going out. You get the team and the ads and the this and the that. And then honestly, a lot of the people it brought in weren't my ideal clients. Like they weren't they know how to click a button, but I need more than that. I need more than that. And so I think it's so good to know who you are in this, and you cannot lose that. That is your power. That is your magic. That is what you are here for. We're not meant to turn into some like robot machine person over here doing everything that people told you should do. And it's so important to recognize that, of course, we're going to have new stuff that'll come on the scene, and social media is a whole other animal. I have my love-hate with it. I'm grateful for it, but I also recognize, as you said, Hope, that it is really here for entertainment. It's like, can you be an entertainer and dance? And I don't want to sing and dance for people. You know, I have my own way of showing up, and it is an art form and it is a craft. And I think what you just brought up, Hope, is for everyone to mention, you know, to really consider, what are you here for? Like, what are you here for? What are those great gifts that you have? What is your zone of genius? If you use social, and most businesses do in some way, how are you using it? You want to use it as a tool, and don't let the tool use you, kind of like chew you up and spit you out. And then what are you left with? And so this is a really important conversation, especially in this day and age when there's just so much mania. Every day you're like, whoa, okay. Thank goodness for yoga, right? Thank goodness. So I know you do a lot with speaking, and I want to go in here because this is what you do, and it sounds like you support clients with this as well. So do you have kind of multiple arms of the business now? Like you've got what you do with your trucking community, and then it sounds like you're also supporting entrepreneurs. So tell us more about the work that you do with speakers, why you're so passionate about this, and what you think some of the top tips you have to be an incredible speaker and messenger.
Yeah. So first things first, I am not a big believer in trying to start multiple fires at the same time. Where it's like, you know, people are like, oh, I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do this. Like they're chasing. And so when I started Mother Trucker Yoga 7 years ago, I had my studio for about 15 years. And I just was, I was successful, paid all the bills. I was well known in the community, taught at all the big fitness conferences, yada, yada, yada. But I felt like I was kind of everywhere. And so when I started in the trucking space, my whole motto was, I'm going to do things right this time. And so my mentor was like, Hope, if you're going to do this, you got to stay in your lane. Meaning you have to let go of the yoga clients. You have to let go of that space. And you'll know when a time comes if you want to bring that back or you want to do other things. And you have to go all in on the trucking. And so that's what I did. I focused on that business. I kind of had a little side business currently at that time going where I was just kind of coaching some entrepreneurs and speakers because I was doing it and I was getting success with that. And so I was like, well, it helps pay the bills, right? A little supplemental income is never a bad thing. And I also was trying to strategically build Mother Trucker Yoga to where I don't want to run a business, because my studio, I had at one time almost 20 instructors, a massage therapist, an acupuncturist, a retail area. I don't want that. I want to have the freedom. I want to share my skills. I don't want a job. So I was really strategic at this, trying to focus on this. And so as I built Mother Trucker Yoga, a big part of how I did that was through speaking. And this is not like me getting up and being like, I was born at a young age and telling everybody like the horrible things that happened to me and like my entire life story for 45 minutes, which is a mistake people think when that's speaking. Speaking is really about strategy and how you deliver your message, and remembering that it's actually not about you, it's actually about them. And so when you want to share your message, whether it's to a room full of 5 people or an arena full of 500 or 5,000 people, first things first, you have to know your audience. So who are you speaking to? because your message, if it's, built for female entrepreneurs, but it's a room of dudes that all work out at the gym and it's a fitness conference, one, why are you there? But two, your message is not going to resonate. So you have to know your audience. The second thing is you have to know the problem that you solve. And this is a mistake that a lot of people make. I have coached 10,000 plus speakers and entrepreneurs over the last 7 years. And one of the things that is mind boggling to me, Jenny, is it doesn't matter if you're a new entrepreneur or you are a multiple $1,000,000 earner, is when you ask people what the problem they solve in their business, most of the time they give you the result. I help people with weight loss. I help people make more money. I help people, manage their finances. Last time I checked, those are all good things. Those actually aren't problems. And so the problem is the opposite of that. Problems are negative. Doesn't mean you're negative, but that's what people are thinking about. That's what's keeping them up at night. And so you need to know these things before you even think about getting on stage, before you even think about writing a book, before you even think about getting on social media, because people need to connect. They need to know you're like them. So I knew that truck drivers sit all the time. They live a sedentary life. Their back hurts all the time. They walk into a truck stop. They don't know what to eat that's healthy. When I work with entrepreneurs, they feel like they are the best kept secret. That's a problem. They feel like they're stuck in their business. That's a problem. And so I have to know those things because everything I speak and create from that is going to be based on that. Right. And so once I figure that out, when I get to that point of speaking, we want to do a couple of things. We want to share a story in the beginning to emotionally connect. So we want to emotionally connect. That does not mean, though, I need to tell the deepest, darkest secret. I don't need to know about your time in jail. I don't need to know about your sexual assault. I don't need to know about every detail of your addiction. Like, I'm a recovering addict. I struggle with an eating disorder. I don't need to share all of those things with you to connect. What I want to share is a moment in my journey that you can relate to and say, I'm just like you. And so that's the story that we want to share. We also want to teach. So if I'm speaking for 45 minutes, roughly I have about 30 minutes to teach. And a lot of people, when they get up on stage, they think I should start with teaching so people know how smart I am. I should start with statistics and stats. Like 80% of truck drivers are obese. Like, boring. Google can tell me that. Like, I want to connect with you. Or they'll start with a rhetorical question, which actually paralyzes your audience. You're going to see a decrease in conversion rate. I don't know who started that trend, but stop it. It's not helping you. It's hurting you. Instead, turn those rhetorical questions into statements. Instead of saying, have you ever felt lost in your life? Say, many of you here today have felt lost in your life. You see how now I'm giving you the power with the question. I have the power with the statement. I'm the authority with the statement. So we have an opening story. We're going to teach. We're going to teach for about 30 minutes with no more than 4 buckets of content, not 90. If you say we got a lot to cover here in a short amount of time, that is a first sign to me when you're a speaker that you have no idea what you're doing, because more information will not help them. And then we want to have one offer. Okay, not two, not a free offer and a paid offer. Like, ooh, I want to make sure I give everyone an option. If you do that, pick no option. And then finally at the end, you want to leave them on a high note. You want to leave them feeling good. You want to leave them with something that they feel like, yeah, I love this decision that I made. Not something sad, not like another fist pounding sign up for this offer. You want at least a minute, maybe even 60 seconds, 30 seconds of something positive and upbeat that leaves them feeling like this is the right person for me. And you get up on stage and put that all together. Now, normally I do a 2-day training on this. So this is the 2-minute version. But when you look at some of these options and some of these pieces, this is really what makes a well-rounded speaker.
Yeah. Ooh, boom. Well, I love all of it. What would be an example of that high note, leaving them on that high note? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So it can be, maybe you have a closing story.
Okay.
You like figuring it out. You figuring your life out. Maybe you shared in the beginning a little bit of your hero's journey and you want to close the loop at the end. I'm not opposed to a quote, but you want to tie the quote to your audience. So if you're going to share a quote like live, laugh, love, and then they're like, great. Or if you're like sharing a quote from Oprah Winfrey or MLK, like, cool, know that you need to add something to the end of that that turns it on the audience. Why I'm sharing this with you is because blank. Make it about them. So a mistake speakers make a lot is they end with it about themselves and you need to actually end with the audience's focus.
Right. I love that. And would it ever be, have you seen it done well, where someone maybe they shared a piece of a client story and then end with that too, like something, a powerful,
Yeah, that's a great question.
for a client?
Client stories, the best place to actually put client stories, if you're focused on conversion rate, whether you're a paid offer, a free offer, or no offer, is actually in your content. It's a horrible place to put testimonials or client stories at the end, because they're using a different part of their brain. We're naturally skeptical towards the end of the presentation, especially in the offer. And so when people pop up those testimonials, immediately I see people disengage because they're like, that person's not even real. That's not true. And so your testimonials should actually be in your content as client examples that match that content piece, because that part of the person's brain is open and receptive. They're in learning mode. And so those are the best places to put those things. Do not put them in the offer. Do not put them at the end of your presentation. You're going to completely just disengage the audience and they've already made the decision whether they want to work with you. So you're not putting yourself or them.
Gold. You have so much wisdom inside of you, just out there doing it. And I want to celebrate you for your decision and to celebrate yoga for taking both of us on such a ride. I mean, who knew? But I have a lot of clients and members of my audience who are into yoga. So I know that they can appreciate this. And for those of you tuning in who maybe haven't dipped your toes in this world, I think we would both encourage you to give it a spin. It is such a game changer because it really allows you to trust yourself. I mean, that is like one of the greatest gifts of yoga. Hope, how can people find you? How can they stay in touch with you and find out what you're up to?
Yeah, if you want to find me on social media, Hope Zvara, Zvara, it'll connect you to my Mother Trucker Yoga social platforms as well, where I'm sharing inspiration and fitness advice, business advice, and really things that I've learned from working with the clients that I've worked with, the mistakes I've made in my business, but more importantly, the ability to follow your intuition and live your life calling, which I feel like when you're doing that and you're in harmony, life is fruitful. And when you're not, you usually can tell things just aren't right, like something's off. And I do as well have yoga to thank for that. I think yoga is an incubator for your everyday life. And if you're feeling disconnected from life, you might want to think about adding something into your life to help you reconnect.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so hopesavara.com. And it sounds like you lead these speaker trainings. Is something you do a few times a year? How does that work?
Yeah, so I do some one-on-one consulting for speakers and entrepreneurs, but we also do group trainings. I have done stuff for companies. I've actually done some stuff for Grant Cardone and some other bigger names in teaching and writing some programs for them. And so if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that, you can send me an email, info@hopezavara.com. That's ZVARA.com. And I'd love to chat and learn a little bit more about what kind of story you're looking to share with the world, or your company is looking to share with the world. Because we need more good messages out there for people to be inspired by.
Yes, absolutely. And Hope, how do you stay healthy yourself? Still yoga? How do we avoid burnout? How have you done this? This is my last question I'm going to ask you, and then we're going to wrap.
Yeah. So for me, trying to avoid burnout is about making sure I'm doing things outside of my business that I enjoy. I am fortunate enough that I am doing what I love and what I'm passionate about, but it's about making sure I have other things to keep me fulfilled. So I love going to the gym. I love going for a walk, playing with my dogs, making sure I spend time with my kids, camping in the summertime. And those things, balance is, some people say balance is a lie, but it brings balance to my life because I eat, breathe, and sleep fitness and business every single day. And I love it. But I also need other things to bring me joy. And when I'm isolated and I'm all in on my job and my clients, I tend to feel like I kind of lose sight and forget to come up for air. And my job suffers. I suffer. My family suffers. And so for those of you listening, I want to encourage you, it's okay to have other things in your life. It's okay for you to enjoy other activities. It's okay for you to take a step back and say, you know what? It's summertime. I'm going to push the pause button a little bit because I need to restore me. Because if you don't do that for yourself on the front end, Life will do that for you on the back end. Remember, you are your business's greatest asset. Take care of it, nurture it, enjoy it, because you are going to do amazing things with it.
True words. Thank you for that glorious thought and truth. We all needed to hear it today. We have to stay healthy. Health is our greatest, it's the greatest gift we have. Health is wealth. And I appreciate everything that you shared today. And I echo, especially that summertime bit. I have 3 children. They're still at home. That will not always be the case. And I have a lot of clients where I say to them, same what you just mentioned, you're allowed to shift gears during different seasons. You don't want to look back and go, I wish I would have done it differently. Listen to what Hope just said. And as we have summer coming up, not too far from now, what kind of moves do you want to put in place now so you're set up to have the kind of season that will work best for you in this season of your life? Thank you so much for joining us today, Hope, on Coach Magic. You're amazing. I'm so glad we had an opportunity to connect. And everyone tuning in, I appreciate you. I know this message landed. And get in touch with Hope if you want to dig in more with all the incredible work that she's doing out there. I will see you all again soon. Be